Hey everyone, so I want to talk about something that completely changed my perspective on how I prepare food. You know how we're always told to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables, right? Well, it turns out that when it comes to tomatoes, cooking them might actually be the smarter choice. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but stick with me here because the science behind this is genuinely fascinating. Let me start with a question. What if I told you that the way you prepare, your tomatoes could literally double or even triple how many antioxidants your body actually absorbs? That's not marketing hype, that's what research shows. So here's what's happening. Tomatoes contain this incredibly powerful compound called lycopene. It's what gives tomatoes their red color. And lycopene is the most efficient single oxygen quencher, eliminating more than 10 times more oxygenated free radicals than vitamin E. Think about that for a second. More than 10 times more powerful than vitamin E, which is already considered a major antioxidant. But here's the problem with raw tomatoes. Within uncooked tomatoes, the linear transform of lycopene aggregates into crystalline structures located within chromoplasts, which makes it poorly bioavailable for mammals. Basically, the lycopene is locked up in these crystal formations inside the tomato cells, and your digestive system has a really hard time breaking through those structures to access it. This is where cooking comes in. Research demonstrates that heat processing actually enhances the nutritional value of tomatoes by increasing the lycopene content that can be absorbed by the body, as well as the total antioxidant activity. The heat breaks down those cell walls and those crystalline structures, making the lycopene way more accessible. Now, I know what you're thinking. Don't we lose nutrients when we cook vegetables? And you're right. We do lose some things. When tomato samples were heated, vitamin C content decreased by 10, 15, and 29% respectively when compared to raw, uncooked tomatoes. So yes, you lose some vitamin C. But here's the trade-off. You're gaining significantly more of something far more powerful. Let me share some actual numbers with you, because this is where it gets really interesting. In one study, ingestion of tomato paste yielded 2.5 times the amount of lycopene in subjects than fresh tomatoes. That's 2.5 times more absorption from cooked versus raw. We're not talking about a marginal improvement here. But it gets even better. If you cook your tomatoes with olive oil, the absorption skyrockets. There was an 82% increase in plasma translycopene and a 40% in cis-lycopene concentrations in the 11 subjects who consumed tomatoes cooked in olive oil. Compare that to tomatoes cooked without oil, where there was basically no increase in one form of lycopene and only a modest increase in another. Why does olive oil make such a difference? Because lycopene is fat-soluble. It needs fat to be properly absorbed into your bloodstream. Absorption of lycopene is further enhanced when it is consumed with a small amount of fat, which is present in cooking oils used in preparing most tomato products. So this brings up the obvious question: why should we even care about lycopene? What does it actually do? Well, lycopene has been hypothesized to be responsible for reducing the risk of some cancers and heart disease. And this isn't just speculation. Research involving men who consumed cooked tomatoes showed some pretty remarkable findings. Men who consumed canned and cooked tomatoes 5 to 6 times a week had a 28% decreased risk of prostate cancer, compared with men who never consumed this food. And this was after adjusting for other factors, like exercise, obesity, education level, all of that. And here's the kicker. There was no significant association between prostate cancer and consumption of raw tomatoes. It was specifically the cooked tomatoes that showed the benefit. Now, I want to be clear here. The research on lycopene and cancer is complex, and clinical data on lycopene supplementation for prostate cancer prevention remain inconclusive. Not every study shows the same results, and scientists are still working to understand exactly how all of this works. But the overall pattern from dietary studies is pretty compelling. Beyond cancer, diets rich in carotenoids like lycopene are generally associated with a decreased risk of some cardiovascular events. Some research even suggests it might help with blood pressure and cholesterol levels. Now, there's another fascinating piece to this puzzle that I think is really cool from a chemistry standpoint. When you heat tomatoes intensely, the lycopene molecules actually change shape in its standard structure in the average red tomato. The lycopene molecule is laid out in a linear configuration, but the bent molecular structures of lycopene are much more likely to be absorbed into the blood. In one experiment, research participants had a 55% increase in total lycopene absorption, after eating the specially processed sauce when compared to their lycopene blood levels. After eating the regular sauce, the specially processed sauce had been heated at higher temperatures to create more of these bent forms of lycopene. So what does this mean practically for how you should eat tomatoes? Here's what I do now. I still enjoy fresh tomatoes in salads. They're delicious and have other nutrients. But when I want to maximize lycopene absorption, I cook them. I'll make a simple tomato sauce with olive oil, or I'll roast cherry tomatoes with some garlic and olive oil. Sometimes I just buy good quality canned tomatoes or tomato paste for pasta sauce, because those have already been heat processed. The beauty of this is that it's actually easier than trying to eat everything raw. You know that Mediterranean staple, tomato sauce simmered with olive oil? The cooking of tomatoes with olive oil is a characteristic combination in the southern Mediterranean diet. Those cultures figured this out centuries ago through tradition, and now science is catching up to explain why it works so well. One more thing I want to mention. Researchers believe that processing or cooking the tomatoes breaks down cell walls, making the lycopene more accessible to the body when ingested. So whether it's canned tomatoes, tomato paste, tomato sauce, or tomatoes you cook yourself at home, you're getting those benefits. If you found this information valuable, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel and lets me know you want more science-backed nutrition content like this. The takeaway here isn't that fresh produce is bad, or that we should cook everything. It's that different foods have different optimal preparation methods and, with tomatoes specifically, cooking actually unlocks more of their nutritional potential. This research dispels the popular notion that processed fruits and vegetables have lower nutritional value than fresh produce. Sometimes processing is actually beneficial. So next time you're making dinner, throw those tomatoes in the pan with some olive oil, let them cook down into a sauce. You're not just making something delicious, you're making something that your body can actually use more effectively. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into food science and want to see more content, breaking down the research behind nutrition, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Drop a comment below and let me know, do you prefer raw or cooked tomatoes? Have you noticed any difference in how you feel when eating them different ways? I read every comment and I'd love to hear your thoughts. See you in the next one!